Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our special edition of the Kadisa Rabadori program. Today we have a special guest for you, Melody Sundberg. Melody Sundberg is a Swedish activist. She's a founder and manager of the Untold Stories project. This is a web-based advocacy project which focuses on Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Egypt. It aims to give voice to the people who have suffered human rights abuse, and they focus on the freedom of expression. Melody is also a board member and a webmaster at the Schibbye Foundation. Welcome, Melody, to our show.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start. That we will talk about in some reasonable detail about this Untold Stories project. But let's start with how you came to be interested in human rights issues in the Horn of Africa, particularly in Egypt, Eritrea, and Ethiopia.
It is a very long story, actually, but it's worth to go through because it's the most common question that I get. So people are always wondering why this Swedish woman is writing about human rights issues in the Horn of Africa. So for me, it really started with, I always wanted to do something good for human rights, for humanity. It was a longing that I had in my heart as long as I can remember. But I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know in what area. So for me, I started to study psychology, and I was thinking to work with treatment and rehabilitation for people who have psychological problems. And it is a big interest for me. But when I finished the studying, it didn't really feel right for me to work within that field. Don't get me wrong, I really like psychology. So, but I was still struggling to finding my way. And one day I was sitting down here at home and listening to radio, and I found this audiobook, 438 Days, written by Schibbye and Johan Persson, two Swedish journalists who were jailed in Ethiopia. They had entered the Ogaden region to write about human rights abuses there, and they were jailed in Markilawi and Kalite prison. So, when I heard that book, I really felt that some sort of connection, because they met so many people in these prisons they were jailed journalists and bloggers, and I felt that here I am in Sweden. I can blog, I can write whatever I want, and nothing will happen to me. But these people get jailed for it, they get tortured for it. And that, it didn't leave my mind when I found out about that. And very soon after that, Martin came to my city. I live in Sweden, and he had a lecture about this. And that was a big moment for me, really understanding. I really got some sort of connection to these people, and I felt that I had to do something about it, if I can. So what happens was that I started tweeting about this. I created a Twitter account, and I started writing, "Stop jailing journalists. Journalists are not terrorists." And I didn't really think that it was actually lead to anything. I didn't even know that people would read my tweets, but they were actually doing that, and people started contacting me and thanking me for what I was tweeting. And I really remember it was in April 2014 when I was reading the tweets on Twitter as usual. And one tweet captured my eye, and it was something like this: "My hands are shaking. My friends have been jailed. My human rights defender friends have been jailed in Ethiopia." And I was like, "What? How can this happen? It sounded so surreal." And I started looking into that. And it turns out that it was the Zonan bloggers that were jailed in Ethiopia in 2014. And I felt that I want to write something about this. This was so early that human rights organizations haven't even wrote about it yet. And I started tweeting about it, but it was very, very difficult to get the information because it was everywhere, you know. I was new to this. I didn't know any human rights defenders from Ethiopia. I didn't know where to find information. I didn't know the hashtags. This was even before the very famous hashtag Free Zone 9 bloggers that came a bit later. But I tried my best, and I found some information here, some information there. And, you know, I am a wedding photographer. I work a lot in Photoshop, and I took this information that I found and created just a simple picture with a summary of who the Zone 9 bloggers are, what had happened, the situation in Ethiopia, and I let that out on Twitter. And it was crazy. It was retweeted everywhere, and it was, you know, everywhere on Twitter regarding this. And that was that is when I understood that I had something to give. I can do something about this. There's a need of information, and putting information together and summarizing things and making it easy for people to find. So I think that is when I first realized that there's a need of a site, which was later going to become Untold Stories, where you can find all this information in one place. So that is how it kind of began for me.
Thank you, Melody. I think you did mention about a book written by two Swedish journalists who were imprisoned in Ethiopia for trying to report the stories that were going to that part of Africa.
Yeah.
Johan and Martin, they later on wrote a book titled 438.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently you were inspired by that book.
Very much so, yes.
I wonder if make any point about how that book really inspired you to get into this kind of advocacy work.
Yeah, it is a very special book. I recommend everyone to read it. It is a very clear description of what it is like to be jailed in Kalite prison and in Maekelawi. They write, it's like a diary almost, where they really explain everything that is happening to them. You get a really clear image of how it looks there, how it is to be jailed, how it feels. And of course, they also mention many journalists that were jailed at the time and that is still jailed. And that really got to me. So I really recommend that book to everyone.
Thank you. Honestly, I have not read that book, but I promise you I'm going to do it. Let's talk about the project that you created, the Untold Stories project that you created, having been inspired by stories of these two journalists.
Yeah.
Had to, in fact, suffer a lot of stuff, including torture in one of the most notorious prison facilities in Ethiopia. Yeah. So this Untold Stories project, what is it about, and what you want to achieve? And in fact, how you have told us how you were inspired by the stories of these journalists and other Ethiopian bloggers, including the Zone 9ers. Now, I want you to talk about this project, Untold Stories. What is it? What are you doing at this particular project?
If I start with how it really began, I began as a blogger, just writing my own text about human rights abuses in Ethiopia. But I was contacted by many exiled journalists and bloggers who wanted to share their stories with me. And I especially remember the first time I met an exile blogger. It was on the central station in Stockholm, Sweden. And I sat down with him, and he has just left Ethiopia a couple of months earlier, and his friends were jailed, and he told me his story. And, you know, it is the first time I sat down with someone and 30 minutes into the conversation had tears in my eyes because of what he was telling me. And I was really thinking to myself, I wish that everyone could meet this person just as I did. And that is, of course, impossible. But that is when I decided that I want to create a site where people can sort of meet these people and listen to their stories through interviews, or them writing the stories themselves. So I was really thinking about creating this site, and I continued writing on Twitter and so on. And I was also contacted by other people, some people from the Oromo community, and they were asking me, why are you not writing about the oppression against the Oromo? And, you know, my reply was, I didn't know about it, because I was so new in this area that I had so much to learn. And I told them I would really like to write about it. Just tell me what has happened. So they started to sending articles to me and telling me about the horrible oppression against the Oromo people by the Ethiopian government. And soon after that, I heard another radio documentary, also by Martin Schibbye, the Swedish journalist. And he was jailed in Malawi at the same time as a young Oromo poet, Chala Hailo Abata. And I knew that I wanted to meet him, and I was lucky because he's here in Sweden. So we met, and he told me even more about the oppression against the Oromo people. And at this time, I started Untold Stories. I launched the site, and this was in November 2015. And as we know, this is where the protests, Oromo protests in Ethiopia, really sparked. So I was writing a lot about this at that time. So that is what Untold Stories really have become, sharing the stories of people who have been there, who have suffered these horrible human rights abuses, journalists, bloggers, and we are also sharing many stories from people who are living in exile at the moment, all over the world, about their difficulties to continue their journalistic work, as well as more personal difficulties, like many people are suffering from loneliness and missing their families and so on. So I am so happy and honored to share their stories. It is the best thing I've ever started with, and will continue doing.
Thank you so much. And I think everybody appreciates what you're doing. We will talk about it further. But I just want your thoughts on this idea that, Ethiopia, if anybody who follows the affairs of Ethiopian politics, you would realize that every day you would have something negative, that the government would either kill somebody or imprison a journalist or a blogger or all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, you will have a very negative feed into your mind every day, literally every day. That you have to really struggle, what you can help to get out of that kind of misery, that kind of stuff. That a government, that country would do everything that we hear every day.
Yeah.
And that personally would affect many people, including myself. So at least you have been following this stuff after November 2015. How is it that you have to follow all this negative news and all imprisonment and killing and all the things?
Yeah.
How is it like for a European or for a European human rights activists. How does that sound? How I want you to reflect on this.
Yeah, of course, it is really horrible stories that I'm taking part of every day, and it really gets to you, of course. But at the same time, meeting these people and hearing these stories, it's absolutely amazing knowing that. They are so incredibly brave and so incredible people who are continuing to fighting for human rights. They know that they are going to be jailed. They know that they are going to be tortured, and yet they continue doing that. And, living in Sweden, I'm thinking that we really need to learn something from these people, because, I mean, I literally no words. So, yeah, I hear many negative things coming from Ethiopia, but thinking about these people, the best people that I've ever met, the whole world has something to learn from them, literally, and that is so important.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Melody. And I was reading your website at Untold Stories Project, and there are a lot of things that we have there. And in fact, beyond promoting, beyond becoming the voice of the voiceless, you want to also help the people to fight repression back home, right?
Yeah.
That's even more important for our project. This very idea that you help people fighting repression back home is very outrageous in governments like the TPLF. It's really outrageous. That's beyond turning out to be a voice for the voiceless. You want to help them. You want to really help them to fight the repression back home.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is very, very outrageous, by the way, if by the standards of the TPLF thinking. And perhaps you could be one of the terrorists if you happen to be in Girma.
Yeah.
Accuse you of like interfering with internal affairs or stuff like that. What do you make of this point? And yeah.
Yeah, but that is the connection that I made with the human rights defenders in Ethiopia. That it could have been me. I'm a photographer. I love to write. I want to do something for human rights, and they are the same. They are the same, and that is something that I realized. If I was born in Ethiopia, and I would probably have done the same thing, I would have been jailed. So. One have to care about this. You can't look at it and then look away. You need to continue caring and doing what you can. So.
Fine. Thank you so much, Melody. Let's talk about this, the Kaliti Foundation.
Yeah.
And I understand that you are a board member and, in fact, the webmaster.
Yes.
Foundation.
Yes.
Can you explain to our viewers that what is this foundation and how it came to being?
Yeah. So the Kaliti Foundation was founded by the two Swedish journalists who were jailed in Kaliti. It provides financial support to jailed journalists who are jailed worldwide. The financial support, it can be anything from lawyer costs to helping their families to cooperate. And so it is an amazing foundation, really. It has helped so many people, and I'm really hoping to reach out more. And Untold Stories is connected to the foundation, and while the Kaliti Foundation provides financial support, we give voice to the people. So it's a really good project that is connected to each other and helping each other out.
Yeah, I just raised this point because I felt that many people don't know about it, and in fact, yeah, we really want to know about this project. We knew very little about these two journalists, these Swedish journalists who were present in Ethiopia, and they have a foundation that established.
Yes.
Released the prison, that they went to help the journalists who are struggling with this the structure of repression in Ethiopia. Yeah, I think that would be very interesting stuff to know for many Ethiopians, that these journalists have their own foundation, which they established with the name of one of the most notorious prison facilities in the Quality Foundation. Yeah. Let's come to your contributors and partners at your Untold project. I've seen that you have a lot of contributors.
I'm very lucky to have that. Yeah.
Let you explain to our viewers that how you work with them, how you brought them on board, and what they're doing that.
Yes, so the most important contributors, of course, is the people who have suffered human rights abuses. And they, in most cases, they contact me. They have found the site and they want to share their story. So that is the most common way. And in some way, in some cases, I have many contacts, especially in Ethiopia and the diaspora. So I'm letting people know that the site exists and that they can share their stories. And it has always been easy to find people who wants to write. There are so many people who feel that finally I can share my story with the world, and that feels great. And regarding the other contributors, we have many illustrators, we have proofreaders, translators, amazing people who are putting so much work into this project and so much of their free time, because everyone is volunteering, including me, and I'm so thankful for them. And there's this volunteer agency in Sweden that is helping us to reach out to Swedish people who wants to work as volunteers. And I remember when I put the first ad regarding the volunteer opportunity, and I didn't think that I would get someone, but I got so many emails from people who wanted to help out. So my inbox was full, and it was so many Swedes and Americans and from England and everywhere, people who, as me, wanted to do something for human rights. And finally, they could use their talent, for example, as artists, to do that. So I'm very, very happy for that. Of course, art is a very important part of Untold Stories, because I've always believed in art as a very important way of spreading a message. And there are also pretty creative ways you can do this with. For example, if I'm going to pick one article on Untold Stories, it is written by Chala, as I mentioned earlier, and it is about his when he was jailed in Maekelawi and what happened to him there. And I asked him, can you try to draw a map over Maekelawi so we can see what it looks like? And he did that. He drew it from memory, and it was really great to put on the site, because many people have read from reports from Human Rights Watch about Maekelawi, and there is this Chelema bet, and it is Taula bet, and it is all these different buildings, and it's difficult to getting an image in your mind, but through his map, the readers could really get that. And also we created, with the help of a company who works with 3D, we created one of the cells from his description. So we have cell 3 in Maekelawi. You can see that in the article, and that is really amazing how art can really spread a message like this. And we also have a lot of poets who are writing for Untold Stories, and we are really putting a lot of attention to photography. For example, when I interview people, I'm taking many pictures of them because I really want them to have a face. I want it to feel for the person who read the article. I want it to feel like they are meeting this person. So photography and everything is important. And I really want to make more out of this in the future. I would really like to make more videos. I want to make video interviews. And in order to do that, I have just a few days back launched a crowdfunding campaign where the money will go straight to Untold Stories, to direct costs, to buying technical equipment such as a video camera and a microphone and stuff like that. So I'm so thankful to the people who have donated to the campaign, and I'm really looking forward to the future with Untold Stories.
I think while I look into the list of people among you, the contributors and the partners of your project, I understood that you have people from different parts of the world, not only from Africa or from Europe. So you have these people from different parts of the world. That it appears that you strategically would like to turn the project in a kind of international venture. Have you understood? Have I understood that correctly?
Do you mean the volunteers or?
Yeah, the volunteers.
Yeah. The writers, they are scattered all over the world because they are living in exile, most of them. So I get stories from everywhere. And the volunteers, most of them live in Sweden. The other volunteers, like the illustrators. So, but we are really getting stories from everywhere. So that is really great.
That's really great. Thank you. Let's go on to another point that I would like you to talk about. What you have done so far, like you have, I've seen that you have featured a lot of articles. You have a lot of artworks as part of advocacy for human rights in part of Africa. Now, this is an opportunity for you to talk about some of them that really you think would be of great interest for our viewers.
Excuse me, about the articles?
Yeah. The things that you have done so far.
Yes.
That you think would be of interest to highlight, to bring to the attention.
Yes. So Untold Stories recently celebrated its first year. It was launched on the 1st of November 2015. And during this year, we have published so many articles and poetry, art, interviews from people who have experienced human rights abuses or simply wants to share their views on this. One thing that, I'm in contact with many people who have suffered human rights abuses, and one thing that is always a recurring topic is being subjected to torture. And I know I have friends, close friends who have been through torture, and I know how horrible experience it is. And I really want to use, as I told earlier, I have studied psychology, and I'm really interested in how the psychological effects are from torture. So I want to know more about the rehabilitation and what help there exists for torture victims, especially in Sweden, where can people get help and so on. So there are many articles on Untold Stories about torture and how it affects people and how they can get help. And I really want to make more on this very important topic. And I really hope for the future that people will be feeling more open to talk about their experiences and sharing them with others, because there are so many who have similar experiences, and I really think that they can help each other out, sharing their experiences, and that we can help them to get rehabilitation for what they have been through, and just to listen to them what they have been through. So for the future, I'm really hoping to make this part of Untold Stories even bigger.
Thank you, Melody. And just related to this point that you mentioned, you are advocating for the right of people in the Horn of Africa, principally, of course, in the north, you have Egypt, and it's a picture you are not going to be limited to that part of Africa only. Now, the viewers on Rabadori program here would like to know what you would like to see in those parts of the world in the future, and what you want to achieve as part of this project.
Yeah, I really believe in the people, what they can do, and the change that they can make. And what I am trying to do with Untold Stories, it is affecting on a grassroots level. I want the common reader, common people like you and me who read on the site, I want to make them aware of what is happening in Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Egypt. And I really think that will create, as more as that people are becoming aware of what is happening, that will lead to a big change in the future, because they will affect politicians and they will affect media to write about it, politicians to do something about it. And I really believe in the people in Sweden and in Ethiopia and in Eritrea and in Egypt to do something, because the leaders in these countries cannot continue doing what they're doing because they don't have the support of their people, and that one day they will understand that. So as I told you earlier, when I started with human rights advocacy, I didn't know much about this, and I had a lot to learn, and it was difficult getting into. So Untold Stories is really about sharing this information in a way that is easy for everyone to understand, no matter if you have prior knowledge about the human rights abuses in these countries or not. So one can find everything on the site. I want every article to be written in a way that everyone can understand, and really, I really want to touch people and make people feel that you can do a change, you can do something, you can blog about this, you can write on social media, you can contact medias, and it will create a huge change. Because we have seen in other cases, such as the Zona bloggers or Al Jazeera staff in Egypt and Dawit Isaak in Eritrea, that when people write a lot about this, change is happening, some have been released, or their cases have been very well known, and there's a lot of pressure on the governments nowadays. So that is really good.
Thank you, Melody. Let's talk about the recent message that you tried to send out to the Ethiopian government, that you recommended them, please do this and get that kind of stuff. This is an opportunity to repeat here on the mainstream media. What do you think the Ethiopian government should do to revitalize and to really push forward the democratization process that you are interested in your message?
So the Ethiopian government, they are always talking about, they say that Ethiopia is a democracy in the making, But the thing is that they have jailed so many people. They have jailed Oromo protesters, they have jailed students, they have jailed Amhara protesters, they have jailed journalists, bloggers, politicians, everyone who actually have knowledge about what democracy is, what human rights is, are in jail. So how is democracy come to Ethiopia? So what I am saying, let these people out and listen to what they have to say, and because these people know what democracy and human rights is, and change will come to Ethiopia the day they are let out of these prisons, because there are so many, especially now during the state of emergency, so many people have been jailed. Let these people out and listen to them, and Ethiopia will become a democracy one day.
Yeah. Just on this point, to complement what you are saying, in fact, this is a government, the Ethiopian government is a government that has lost the battle in the marketplace of the ideas. They have the weapons, they have the security forces. That's why they survive more. Otherwise, they, in the marketplace of ideas, political ideas, and all the recommendations that you're talking about here, they have lost that kind of battle very long ago. So the only thing they have is the weapon and all these repressive institutional mechanisms where they can imprison, they can jail people, they can torture people. So for them, this is an already dead business. That if they come to this kind of idea where they deal with democratic forces, they talk to democratic activists like the Zone 9 bloggers and all these journalists that you are talking about, that's the end for them. They know it. They know it. They already have surpassed that kind of business. And they want to administer and lead that country at a gunpoint. And they have no ear in part to hear this kind of recommendation you are making from halfway across the world. This is the point they're saying. They think that they know the real situation, but what the people saying is force and all this stuff. So do you think that they will really give an ear to the point that rational people like you would make?
What I think is that we will never stop believing in the power of the people. As I said earlier, especially after the state of emergency, they don't have people around them anymore. People have seen what they have doing. They have been killing so many people, especially during the Recha massacre, and they have been jailing thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. According to the figure they released yesterday, they have imprisoned about 24,000. 900 people.
Yeah, I've heard
this unprecedented by any.
Yeah. And those numbers are probably even low. So, but let's not forget the power of the people. And during when the Irecha massacre happened in October, my Facebook was full of these horrible pictures, and I was really, that day was really a black day for everyone, and I remember how much I was crying and so on. But then I started seeing the videos from that day, and let's not forget that the people who were there, they were saying down TPLF, down Wojane. And never forget about that. And we need to continue to honor the people who said that on that day, and we will always do that. And yes, the Ethiopian government, they probably will not take my advice to let out these prisoners, but many people are watching this video. Many people are watching the videos on Untold stories, reading the articles, and they become aware. And it is a great power in that. And I believe in the people that one day change will come.
Thank you so much, dear Melody. I think the very striking point of making that we believe in the people, the power of the people. And one day, change will come for sure. I think that the whole point of the activism and all this project activism we're making, and at the end of the day, for sure, the power of the people will make a difference. So with this, let me give you perhaps a final minute as you have a winding up a remark before our discussion.
Yes, please continue, everyone who have experienced things in Ethiopia, human rights abuses. Continue to sharing your stories, because what you are doing is so important, and people will listen to you, and change will come. I know this. Please continue to sharing the stories, and the others who are visiting the site, share their stories, because this can become something really big, make the world aware of what is happening in Ethiopia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melody, for taking part in the show. Of course, thank you everybody for watching the discussion, and for me and our digital producer Farhad Abdulsalam, thank you for watching and goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.